from Miss Katie Hill. Rahisha has something to dedicate. Holly has something to dedicate. And I have something to dedicate. But this is just a portion, because we could never express how much we really love this woman and the work that she does. And because I'm up in Hartford all the time, I know how difficult that work is. The harder she works, the more forces she have pushing up against her, that they try to push her out of places where she needs to be. But we're going to get the work done anyway. You can't stop us. You can't stop us no matter what you do. So here's Miss Robin. We want to make some presentations of love to you and continue doing the work you do. We love you so much, and we're going to always be there for you.
Always, right? Always.
All right. On behalf of the Solitary Steering Committee, so all of us here, Barb and Raisha, myself, Tim, where you at? There you are. We just wanted to present this plaque for a Lifetime Freedom Fighter Award. And Raisha's here with a beautiful bouquet of flowers. We just really want to say thank you for always supporting our work and for supporting you. So this plaque says for the room here, thank you for always speaking truth to power and standing alongside the people with unwavering commitment.
Right.
Yes, just to echo it, thank you for being our tireless freedom fighter and not letting anything stop you from having justice be present in our communities, equity, love, as you spoke to. We love you.
And I have this plaque for Miss Robin, my hero.
All right. I'm gonna cry. All right.
I'm doing this supposed to cry. Come on now.
So, I have this plaque, and I wanted to present it to Robin Porter, our state representative. There comes a time when we must take a position and stand firmly in it. A position that is neither safe, political, nor popular, yet conscience tells us it's right. So I want to present this to her because just from 2016 when my incident happened, it took me probably 5 or 6 years to even talk about it, and just, it's in the past. I'm a survivor. Police brutality, and yeah, I'm a thriver. I'm resilient and all of that, and Robin was behind me from day one, and I don't have enough words, I don't have enough love in my heart to show her that I really appreciate her for everything that she did for me, everything, the phone calls, the text messages, all of that. And I love her. She's the best. She is.
You don't have enough words to express. The words won't amount to the love.
We know how it is.
Where you going, Robin? For me, this is just me, the deepest love comes in a single rose. And that's what I feel for Robin, the deepest love. And I hope I can talk about this without breaking down, but on January 10th, my cousin died in DLC custody from medical neglect. Robin, from day one, through the funeral and everything, Robin was there for us. gonna be there to make sure that there's some policy around how people get better medical care. I mean, I'm already on the committee that was fighting for oversight over Department of Corrections medical care. I believe they're the only one state that doesn't have it. And so I'm already on that team. And since my cousin died needlessly, he should be alive if we had good medical care. And so I'm in this, well, I've been in this fight forever anyway, so now it's forever and ever. Because I'm gonna fight to make sure he gets the justice he didn't get when he was alive. When they left him on the floor, not knowing what to do to survive it. And by the time he got to the hospital, the doctor said they don't know how long he was without oxygen. And his brain was so damaged that he would never recover. And so we buried him a couple of days ago. And so I want to present this to Robin. Like my daughter said, there's no words. So I want you to have this to put on your desk so you can know the love you have as the demons come around you. You'll always know how much you're loved. It says, Courageous Leadership Award presented to State Representative Robin Porter for your unwavering commitment to doing what's right, even when it's easier to compromise your integrity and do what's safe and popular. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Our second half, so I'm going to ask the panelists in our second half to take their table. Sorry, I didn't want to kick you out, but you know, you got to go. They have the signs and everything they got to put up. Well, you know what? We'll figure it out. Katie, yeah, just move it over there. So this is our second panel, and they are organizations that work to keep our young people in play in this work to make sure their voices are mentioned. And so I want to present them. But before I do, because some people may leave before this is over, I want to acknowledge the people in the room that are really going to be helping us, and they have helped us in all the success that we've had doing this work. And I know they're going to be working as hard as they can to get this script search policy passed. And so I want to acknowledge them. You can just stand, representatives of our board, our Stop Solitary Board members. I'm a mess right now. Stop Solitary Board members, can you stand? I know Ray's back there, Robin. Okay. Who else? Kathy Lewis, of course, you know. We have our Department of Corrections Oversight Board, which we're still working on that because we had some people try to compromise that, but we haven't given up on that fight. I'd like to have those people stand also and be acknowledged. I want to acknowledge our servers. Our photographer, where is he? Our speakers, Terry Briggs, Leighton Johnson, Keisha Tucker. speakers, Christina I'm gonna mess it up, Christina. From Connecticut Justice Alliance, Caranta, okay? And then Heather Piacero from State Connecticut Child Advocate's Office. And so I want the two of them to speak now around this issue of strip searching and the lockdowns, which is gonna be part of our 2023 campaign. So we'd like for you to just to say a little bit about yourselves, your work, and then I'll ask you a question and you can go from there. Is it working?
Let's see.
Turn it on.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Press the button. Green. No, hit the button. Green.
Okay, now we're green. Thank you. Okay, everybody, thanks for coming out today. We love to support Stop Solitary CT. We're out the past couple of years supporting the Protect Act getting passed, and now that it's not being followed, we're still here. And we have a couple more things added to our agenda with ending strip searches. And when I was talking to Barb, I work for the Connecticut Justice Alliance, and we focus on basically from birth all the way through age 24, young people that are in the youth and adult legal systems here in Connecticut. And I said, Barb, you know that this happens to children too. And I've been saying that to some other people in different meetings, and they stop and take a pause and are surprised, right? So it does happen, and it's something that we need to end, because many states around the country have done just that, because there are other ways to make sure that people are safe inside of prisons. And my friend Heather, right next to me here, said we were talking earlier, and she said, you know, safety and security, but it's not about that. It's about power and control, right? Completely and totally, we know that. So the Connecticut Justice Alliance, our mission is to end the criminalization of youth. There's two of us now that work for the Alliance. There's me, and you'll probably see Eliana Pujos, my number two, my partner in crime, which I guess there's a pun there. But anyway, we do statewide work. We try to do some policy, organizing, advocacy. Since 2017, we've been working with young people who have been directly impacted by the system, who have been incarcerated, detained, or involved in some other ways with the youth or the adult legal system, to make sure that they're beside us doing the work, so that it's not folks without system experience deciding what happens, because that should end. That's the way CTJA used to be run, and that's no more. The sun is set on that. So we're excited to partner with you all and work with you all to raise the voices of young people that need help. A few years ago, when the custody of young people who were arrested in Connecticut switched over from having the Connecticut Juvenile Training School in Middletown being under the custody of the Department of Children and Families, over to the Judicial Branch, Court Services Division, people thought, great, it's in good hands now. Which I'm not here to tell you today that it's in horrible hands, but there's a lot of work to do. I've been having discussions with a lot of people around the state of what does Connecticut look like? What's the makeup of the prisons, the jails, the detention centers, and congregate care homes? And you might hear the narrative in the media that our numbers have dropped, everything's fine, there's nothing to look at, and Connecticut is flush with money, so we're good, but that's not true. We all know, because we have been inside, and if you haven't, even looking at the numbers of who is subject to solitary confinement, being sprayed with chemical agents, being incarcerated, going in front of judges, being detained, being stopped, on foot or in the car, it's black and brown people. So it will always be that way unless we stand up and we gather together, because we're all stronger together. So I'm happy that everybody is here today, excited. I'm going to pass the mic over to Heather. And I hope that we can fill in some questions that you may have. And we were just talking to each other. It's so hard to follow after Robin's passionate words. The panel over here, like, we come with some data, and we'll come with whatever force and labor we can bring. But you all are like the heart and love of the work. We appreciate you all. So thank you, and thank you for sharing your stories. And we will make sure to hold you up. And when you're tired and can't speak anymore, we'll take the mic. We got you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Barb, and for everybody for all the work that you're doing. Thank you guys very much for sharing your stories. We talked over lunch, and all the words that you guys
me. My role is I go in there and spend time with them, in their cells, visiting a couple of things that really, I do want to say this, that strip searching is the fabric of those facilities, of these institutions. It is how they run. They see that as a tool to control versus understanding the psychological impact that it has on everybody. But for an adolescent, when your mind isn't developed yet, your body's still developing, and to have that stripped down too is, it's confounding. And it's very emotional. I was really emotional hearing you guys talk, because it's real. And it happens to some kids every single day. It happens, there's a lot of kids who told me the same thing. They won't go to a visit because they don't want to be strip searched. We ourselves, I meet with them in the units, and Robin has been there with us, and we meet with them in their space, because if they leave that space, then they have to be strip searched. So, and it's all different levels of that, right? And the kids who end up on these punitive statuses, right? They're subject to that all the time. So in ways, the kids who need the most are the ones who are really being subjected to these interventions continuously. And I also, I think, when you had said it, when somebody says no, I mean, we see so many conflicts over refusing the strip search, and it turns into chemical agent use, right? Being put in restraints until you're going to say, I'm going to allow you to do that. And that, the only thing at this point some of these kids have control over is their words, and then that's taken from you too. And I realize it's really, so many of you have gone through this, and I have to say that it's, for these kids, it is just the emotional trauma that, and we want them to, I always think about it when they're in there and then when they're coming out, and the power and control of that authority figure, and then how are they going to respect you and actually want to be part of that in the community. It's that balance of them being able to understand that, I think, is really critical. And we're not coming out safer, and we're not coming out with, some rehabilitation. I mean, a lot of these individuals, some of these kids who need the most are in that status for the entire time they're there. And then they're all coming back out, right? And not, and not better for their communities or for themselves. So I appreciate what everybody's doing, and we're going to keep fighting. And I think that it's in. Sorry, go ahead. Let me echo. So that's that. And the lockdowns, Barb, I know. I think with, when we talk about, I can't really talk too long about that. I think that the lockdowns are real. I also think that when you pull back the onion of getting 4 hours out of your cell, which is wonderful, the work that everybody's done, now we need to look at what does that look like, right? Because if we're just going from one cell to a cage outside, right, is that what we want? Right? Where is the intervention to help people actually be able to be around each other? So they can go on lockdowns, now with COVID, right? So there's been a lot of lockdowns, so that means there's no movement at all, right? So you could have, if you have an outbreak, they could move people to a different area. They can go on facility lockdowns for staffing. They could go on lockdowns for all sorts of things, for like a shakedown or something like that. And when you're on lockdown, you're not coming out of your cell at all. So if you're so that means you're not coming out.
While we have he called yesterday. He said they're on lockdown because another unit has a few guys that has COVID. So the whole facility is on lockdown. You can come out for a half an hour, you need to take a shower when it's on. Anything, they can make up any. That's what
office that we can, but it's not designed for us to run a pier.
All we can do out on the outside is have that 2 minutes to talk to them and make sure they hold their head high, keep their mental state, mental, it's very frustrating. It's very upsetting to hear my nephew, just talking about the 10 minutes, and then you might have 3 minutes left and the CEO saying, it's lockup time, let's go. But your call's not over. Call that they paid for, or whoever pays for,
And if he chooses to get in the shower, he
you might not even
might have minutes, and he might come out running out naked with your towel and get a ticket because you late. Or sad you want to get in the shower.
So I think a lot of, you have to sometimes pick and choose, right? Because if you're only coming out for a certain amount of time, when you're on a lockdown status, you either have to choose your shower or your phone call, right? And that's,
And
you keep
But isn't that inhumane? Can I ask that question? Isn't that inhumane?
It definitely is inhumane.
To say, as in you just, politely just said, you have to pick and choose. I mean, okay, we did a crime, like some of us didn't kill. Why we can't get the basic necessities that we, the state is there for? Sleep, wash, bathroom, and be safe. We don't get none of that.
But even if they kill somebody, they should still be treated like a
Yeah, but all I'm saying is it's not levels at all. They just take it, you gotta make a choice to use the bathroom or take a shower when you crazy. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I always make that a point too. I don't care what your crime is. And matter of fact, when I get letters from people, I don't ask them what you're in there for. I just need to know that you're not being treated humanely, and that's what I'm fighting for, your humanity. And with the Protect Act, you see a lot more lockdowns now than you've seen before since the Protect Act passed. And that's the CEO's way of pushing back on the bill. They can't stand it, it got passed, and they're trying to do everything they can to avoid it. So if they're not hiding behind COVID, they're hiding behind we don't have enough staff. But people, you see how small our team is? We can't do this by ourselves. We need hundreds of people to show up. Just like if other communities have issues, hundreds of people show up. They have to have an overrun room for so many people show up for their issue. What is our problem? That's why I said, like when Robin was talking about, we want to blame this one and that one, but what about us? What are we not doing? Because we're the ones who have to fight this fight for us. Nobody's going to fight this fight for us. There's people down the suburbs, these things don't even touch them. So many of them, I won't say all of them, because there's some people out in the suburbs that care enough, even though it doesn't touch them, they're going to come out and support us. But there's people in the suburbs that don't care nothing about us, it ain't touching them, and these stories will continue if we don't show up and demand action. We have a duty to fight for the people behind bars, whether they're your loved ones or not. Like I was fighting for medical oversight before my cousin died from medical neglect. I don't wait until it happens to my family for me to fight for it. I've been out here 100 years almost fighting these things. It ain't about my family. It's way above my family. But we have to look at ourselves. Robin, I know you're going to have something to say. And it's important that we make them follow the law. That's why I'm thinking we need to go to the Department of Justice. But one of the questions I wanted to ask is what has the Department of Justice done for the young people when you guys went to them? Because I don't want to waste my time. So that'll be a question for you, Wynn,
I just want to piggyback off of what Ms. Barbara is saying because, there's a narrative in the building right now, and I'm glad I have a couple of my colleagues in the room because we talk about, people not caring until it hits their communities. And there are two specific instances that I want to talk about in this moment, right? It wasn't an issue in the 60s and 70s when I was a kid. Everybody know what the heroin lean look like, right? If you from the communities that look like ours, you know what the heroin lean is. You got people on the corners, high as I don't know what. And as a kid, I would look and be like, he gonna fall and bust his head. Because It's crazy how they can balance without actually smacking that concrete. You know, and I can remember as a kid, we had the milk carts, right? They sit out there on them carts on the corner. I lived on 57th Avenue in Queens, New York, that frat city, and this was rampant in the 80s. Our people were dying on the streets. Either they were dying on the streets or they were being pushed into prisons. There was no discussion about mental health until it hit a certain demographic. Then it became a mental health issue. We cannot put these people, because they were mostly young white kids, in jail. We can't do that. Where was the empathy and the compassion when the people looked at like me? Where was it? Then, more recently, car thefts. Now let me tell you, to this day, I can't even tell you, I got the car, boop, take a couple of steps, look, I'm balancing my bags, boop, I'm gonna pop it again, I'm gonna get almost to the front door, make sure the car's locked. Because guess what, they've been breaking in our cars for decades. They've been robbing and stealing in our communities forever. And it ain't because we're leaving key fobs, right? This is a delicate issue. And I don't mean any offense. But the truth is the truth. And until we stand in that truth and own that truth and do something to change what that truth is, because the truth is a lie. What's the saying in the building, y'all? Perception is reality. You know what I tell people? Perception is propaganda. Okay? Because I'm going to keep it real. That's the only thing I know to do. The only way I know to be. And you get punished for stuff like that. So, but I wear it with a badge of honor. And I'm going to end on this. Because the other thing that really frustrates me, and I'm hearing this narrative more and more in the building, we got to do it incrementally.
We gotta wait.
Well, something's better than nothing, Robin.
Yeah.
Well, you tell that to the mother that's putting her child to bed at night with her belly in her back. That's working 2 and 3 jobs and still can't afford to feed herself. Tell her that. Because I was that mama. I remember those nights. I remember the sacrifices my own mother made. And I was in a 3-generational home, so we were blessed to have my grandmother there. But my mother was working 2 jobs. And we was making ends meet. And it never felt like we was poor because at the end of the day, love covers it all. The village, the family, is the glue. And we have become undone, my people. And it ain't just black people, it's poor white people too. Let's not leave out the rural areas. Susan can speak to this. She represents a district like that. And I want to impress upon you all, my black and brown sisters, that we have white sisters and brothers going through the same damn thing. Excuse me. We in church. Forgive me. I mean this seriously. I'm convicted quickly. But that's what I want to say, because you can't talk to me about incremental change when I got a 5-alarm fire at home. And you're going to send me a fire engine with enough to put out half the fire. Well, it's better than nothing, Robin. At least the whole house didn't burn down. Right? You just got half the damage you would have had. Why aren't we doing what we can? Because these are things that we can. We don't have the resources. We don't have the funding. You know, we propose these policies, but where we going to get the funding from? Well, it's just like that love y'all talk about that I can't legislate. Because we pick our priorities. We have the funding. We got over $3 billion extra dollars. And we're going to talk about the rainy day fund and this big surplus that Connecticut has, because my constituents call me out on that when they watch the news and hear people brag. I don't brag about that, but we do have folks, they ain't calling no names, bragging about that right now. And it is nice to have a rainy day fund, but when you are working 2 and 3 jobs and you can't even afford to save $10 a week, you can't talk to me about a rainy day fund. You cannot. So I want us to push back on that. I want you all to be able to talk about it, because this is the messaging This is the narrative coming out of the building. You need to be prepared to address that.
Right.
You need to be able to give real lived experience testimony on why a little bit ain't enough. Not when we have the resources to do what needs to be done. And don't ask me to compromise when my people don't have what they need, because what it translates to me is you want me to give up what I need so you can have what you want. And I wasn't raised that way. I was taught to take care of my needs on the front end, thank you, mother, so that I could have what I wanted on the back end.
Thank you so much, Robin. Again, in that taskmaker position, it's 4:15. We're supposed to end at 4:30. Well, really before then, but I guess that ain't gonna happen. So I think you're saved right now, Heather. You won't have to answer that question. Do I go to the Department of Corrections? I do want to give out 3 plaques that I forgot to give out before to my speakers. When people talk about experts in any of these conversations, when they come to me talking about an expert, I say the experts are the ones who done went through it. Everybody can read a book and do a study and research, but it's the people who actually went through it, yeah, that are the experts. And so to you, that's why you have these plaques. You're the most valuable people in the room right now. I want you to know that. A lot of courage to do what you guys are doing today. A lot of reliving trauma, but willing to do it for the cause. And I appreciate you guys so much.
Awesome.
And I have to let you know, this is my son. When we got our first piece of legislation passed, it was because he was courageous enough to come and tell his story publicly for the first time to talk about what it's like to be a black person. And I remember them days when he first came out, it was really a heavy battle. And sometimes it's still heavy. But I also found that he gets some healing out of it. If there's any kind of healing against the kind of trauma that you get put through in DOC, he has come a long way. And I'm grateful that he's still here standing and helping us push another bill forward. So I'm going to quickly, because I know we're supposed to be out at Pastor Lewis' place at 4:30. Quickly, but I have to show a quick little powerful video that's about 10 minutes. We went to, Robin was one of them, Andrew Clark, stand up for a moment, provided us this trip to Norway. Thank God. It was, and so we went to Norway and got to experience what another country, how they do things. And just, you can just listen to a couple of minutes of how, when we told them how we do things in America, and they're like, what? We asked them a simple question like, how long do your people stay in isolation? They said, well, how do you, no, we asked them, how long you think in America do we keep people in isolation? They said, 3 days maybe? 3 days? No, we've done it in America 41 years. So anyway, you'll hear a little clip from him. Can everybody hear? No, they can't hear. Yeah, you gotta rewind. She's saying stop.
Cases from America carrying out solitary confinement for a long time, certain individuals. The surprises discuss the length of time that is possible. We have this opportunity to choose also in all Norwegian prisons, especially when it comes to facilities. It's used sometimes, but in very, very little time. And we always consult a doctor to see whether there is some kind of a mental problem, and we try to make this period of time the shortest possible. It could be for a few hours, up to very few days.
Did you hear that? Isolation for a few hours, up to a day.
You have to have a window so you can see the sky. You have to have a 24-hour watch so you know if it's nighttime or daytime. And in one of our sets we have a TV behind us. So we can turn on the TV. You don't get the remote, but we can turn on the sounds, the music, anything. So it gets so involved with sound and pictures.
That's their isolation. Look at that big window to look outside, continue to rain.
Something special we want to see on the tour is tons, and feel free to ask anything.
My name is Ivo Hansen. I'm the deputy governor in Bergen Prison.
This is not a condominium.
I worked there for more than 30 years. I also had a career besides that in the military for 20 years and been in missions in Lebanon, Kosovo, and Somalia. Yeah, this is the yeah, we can turn on the lights. It's so seldom that I've used them, I can't remember.
If that's seldom used.
Was it like that?
No. Yeah. So this is considered what you call solitary confinement?
Yeah. But when I started, you asked me what the difference from earlier days. This was more used. Sometimes we used it for maybe a long time, but a day or two or something like that. Now we can't in 9 minutes. So we are we try to use other means before we use this. This is very seldom we use this. It has to be a real reason, hurting himself, hurting us. I can show you some of the alternatives we have. So this is the last possibility we have. But usually, people come
Last
out,
resort.
we talk to them, we try to get them out as fast as possible.
How long do you think the record would be for a person in solitary confinement in the U.S.?
In U.S., no, I don't know.
Take a guess.
Couple of days.
40 years.
40 years. Even it's not possible to be in prison for 40 years. So when we are using this, we record it from the first minute all the way to the top. So they are asking us for the documentation and the reason why we are doing it. So it's not the easy way that we have to use this. Yes. This, I know it looks very restrictive, but this is trying to get it more humane than the isolation cell. The people that we 20 years ago put on isolation know they can have their own vision, they can have things that they can't work themselves or destroy. So we don't use this often either. And if we are using it, we also document why we are using it.
How many of these cells do you have?
I think we have 4 of these cells.
And is there anybody in any more than that?
No.
Sometimes we have to use solitary confinement for inmates who cannot control themselves. In most cases, because of a psychiatric history or condition. And once they're placed into solitary confinement, we are bound to observe them regularly, like every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, once an hour, and so on, until the inmate is calm and until it's possible to enter a dialogue with the inmate. In such cases, there's usually somebody from the medical facility that comes over, like a psychiatric nurse or a psychologist, that evaluates the inmate and informs us when it's possible to consider to take them back to the regular unit. But before we replace inmates back to a regular prison wing, to the normal cell from a solitary confinement, we engage in a conversation with the inmate. How do you feel now? This and this happened. Are you calm? Will this happen again if you run into similar challenges? How will you deal with it? And when we get information that we want and we need to facilitate the move to a normal cell, we will do it. There are also limitations in how long we are allowed to keep inmates in solitary confinement, because it's isolation. And isolation, we have found out a long time ago, is detrimental to your psychology. It's not good. The whole concept of bringing inmates to solitary confinement is strictly ruled by regulations. And we never use more force than is necessary to calm down the situation. And if the inmate doesn't respond to the way we deal with it, the next step might be a transfer to a psychiatric hospital. So we talked about solitary confinement and how long it's used at a time. As I said, a long time ago, we could use it up to, maybe I'm mistaken now, I don't remember correctly, but up to 3 days. At least there were time limitations. Today, I think it's shorter, but in practical life, we are trying to diminish or reduce the time spent in solitary confinement once they're in there. Then there's a new job arising for us, and that's to get them out. We want to prepare them to be brought back to their original self, where life is a little bit better. So then we engage with conversations, we engage the health personnel or the medical personnel. We try to evaluate the situation from many perspectives, and once we agree with the inmate that you are no longer in the condition you were in, so we want to take you back to your cell. It's actually quite inhumane to place people in solitary confinement. But unfortunately, it's sometimes needed because of the security. Security always comes first. If I was a guest in a US prison facility, I would assume that the duration of a solitary confinement period could maybe be anything from between 3 days to a week, maybe a little bit longer.
The longest serving sentence in solitary confinement was 43.
43 years. Wow. That's a long time. To keep an inmate in solitary confinement for such a long duration, 42, 43 years, with only 1 hour with the your time or fresh air day. That must be a practice that belonged to the old days. I cannot imagine anything else. I mean, if this inmate's released somebody came after 3 years in solitary confinement, I can imagine that it would not be possible for him to function in a normal society. Because what isolation in terms of damages causes the mind and the psychology is quite severe.
Yeah, of course. But you know, when juvenile do stay inside this room, supposedly with counting seconds, not minutes, they should stay a second longer than is necessary. Then they go inside again. And if they're inside there, we have the staff outside the door 24/7. But the average is 24/7. Yeah, you can go stay out. I said every second you stay outside high communication. So the normal staying there is during the night. If they have a chance in the living room, fighting or something, maybe stay out during the night. And I go down and I go into the living room. When was the last time with the series? This one? Probably not you. I can't remember this one to be used this year.
That's the solitary cell.
You all look.
Of course, we have had some critical views from international organizations like the Committee of Torture and Inhuman Treatment from European Council, and they have criticized Norway. We are now come to the situation where we're going to change the practice and the rules to make this even less than it has been. But it's far from the level that we can hear from America.
Thank you, Andrew.
And it's that time, it's 4:32, so we're 2 minutes beyond. So if you want to just gather up all this stuff so we don't leave any work behind. I want to thank again the pastor, John Kelly, for opening up his church. John Lewis, sorry. And please don't forget, please don't forget to fill those out. And there's a box, leave it on the table if you don't see the box there. It's very important that you fill it out so we know what we can do better next time.
Can't leave without me.
Of course, we're going to get the last one.
Excuse me. That's my daughter, Amina.
Excuse me.
Sister Tracy.
And so also,
I don't want to act like we're in the classroom, but we act like that.
I'm sorry. That's how hard. I get that all the time. I can't say something anyway. But thank you all again. And also, there is food. We have to-go containers. And so please help yourself to the food. We have a lot of food that's left over. There's to-go containers up there. So if you want one on your way out, we got desserts that you can take with you also, okay? So again, thank you all for coming out. If you fill out that paper, what you got to give them?
The survey.
The survey, please. That's important. The survey is very important. So please fill that out before you go. And thank you again. Look at everybody in the room that's around you. Support each and everybody that's in this room around you when they're doing something. Make sure you show up, all right? Thank you.